That's what I gotta wake up to, huh? That's what I gotta wake up to, huh? Floyd was my brother, man. We called each other twin, bro. Everybody know me and Floyd called each other twin. My brother only was out there in Minnesota. He was changing his life. He went to Minnesota. He was driving trucks. I had just sent him out 2, 3 boxes of clothes. And my boy was doing what he's supposed to do, man. Y'all go and kill my brother, man. I'm on my way to Minnesota, man. Whatever I can do. Can't let this ride, dog. Y'all not gonna be mad till it hit y'all front door. It's bullshit.
Yo, 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 yo. What up, people? I will say welcome back to another edition of Mike on Sports, but today we're not doing sports today, man. We're talking about a little something different, man. I was going back and forth about doing this topic, you know what I'm saying, but I just felt it inside of me that I had to do it, you know what I'm saying. And we're gonna just sit back and have the conversation about the injustice that's been going on to black men in America for a very long time, and at some point in time, like this shit has definitely has to change. But long history, man. I know people out there have been seeing what's been going on in Minnesota over the night, and a lot of people may have a different opinion than like what I have. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I understand the people's frustration up there. I understand the folks pretty much fed up, man. Pretty much fed up with all the bullshit, man. Like every other day is somebody dying of color. Like last couple weeks ago we had Aubrey oh my God's name Aubrey. I just know it's Ahmaud Aubrey. And then now this week none none different, man. It's another guy, George Floyd, who was murdered right in front of our face, like right in front of our face. There's nothing else you can say about that. The guy was killed pretty much live on camera with no remorse coming from that cop. And I don't understand it, man. I really don't get it. This is a picture from last night. This is the city of Minneapolis right now. I don't know what you guys are thinking. Like, man, that's pretty bad. That's not good. That's not what we want to see. But at the end of the day, man, that's what you get when you get people who are fed up. But before we go down the Minnesota road and what is going on up there with their riots and their just overall state of shock in that city. Let's I want to go back. I want to go back almost what 100 years. Yeah, I want to go back almost 100 years. 1921. 1921. I'm and people know that I can go back farther to dig up what's been going on, but I want to start at 1921. And the reason why I want to start at 1921 is because this is a point in time where we seen black people started to make a way for themselves, started to edge out their lane, you know what I'm saying, in certain areas, especially in the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now, for those who don't know about Tulsa, Oklahoma, man, Tulsa, Oklahoma was a very good place for black people around that time. They had a nice community. They had one of the uh really one of the best black communities in all of the United States. And once once you know it, sooner or later, people start getting envious of what they had, and really to start it to bomb that area. Like, not only did they bomb and set it on fire, but they try to like sweep it under the rug to it as if it didn't happen. Okay, here we go. Let's start for those who don't know the story. In much of the country, the years following World War I saw a spike in racial tensions, including the resurgence of white supremacist group, the Ku Klux Klan, numerous lynchings and other acts of racially motivated violence, as well as efforts by African Americans to prevent such attacks on their community. By 1921, fueled by oil money, Tulsa was growing a prosperous city with a population of more than 100,000 people, but crime rates were high and vigilante justice wasn't uncommon. In 1920, a white mob in mob, a white teenager accused of murdering a taxi driver from his jail cell at the courthouse and lynched him. Newspapers reports the police did little to nothing to prevent the lynching. Tulsa was also a highly segregated city. Most of the city's 10,000 black residents lived in a neighborhood called Greenwood, which included a thriving business district, sometimes referred as the Black Wall Street. That's where the name Black Wall Street came from for those who don't know about Tulsa. Now, this is what happened in Tulsa in 1921. Yes, that's damn true, Georgia Porgy. During those times, black people did own a lot more businesses and were able to help each other too. But let's go back to Black Wall Street, 1921. On May 30th, 1921, and I know this story like the back of my hand. It was a young black man. Now I'm not sure if he bumped the lady on the way into the elevator or what happened, but and I'm not sure this is even a factual story. You know what I'm saying? But I'm a because there's other things that people have said uh, in my digging up of Tulsa that said that it could have been motivated by the government. But we'll talk about that later. A young black teenager named Dick Rowland. Now, a black teenager named Dick Rowland. I'm not sure his name was Dick. See, and that's why I'm kind of skeptical of this story. Entering a elevator at the Drexel Building, an office building on South Main Street. At some point after that, the young white elevator operator, Sarah Page, screamed. Rowland fled the scene. The police were called, and the next morning they arrested Rowland. By that time, rumors of what supposedly happened on the elevator had circulated through the city's white community. A front page story in the Tulsa Tribune that afternoon reported that police had arrested Rowland for sexually assaulting Page. As evening fell, a angry white mob was gathering outside the courthouse demanding the sheriff hand over Rowland. Sheriff Willard McCullough refused, and his men barricaded the top of the floor to protect the black teenager. Around 9 p.m., a group of about 25 armed black men, including many World War II veterans, went to the courthouse to offer a helping guard and Rowland. After the sheriff turned him away, some of the white mob tried to unsuccessfully break into the National Guard armory nearby. With rumors flying around of the possible lynching, a group of 75 armed blacks returned to the courthouse shortly after 10 p.m., where they were met by some 1,500 whites who also carried weapons. So right there, we outnumbered. After shots were fired and chaos broke out, the outnumbered group of blacks retreated to Greenwood. Over the next several hours, groups of white Tulsans, some of who were deputized and given weapons by city officials, committed numerous acts of violence against blacks, including shooting an unarmed man in a movie theater. The false belief that a large-scale insurrection among black Tulsians was underway. including reinforcement from nearby towns and cities with large African American populations, fueled by growing hysteria. As dawn broke on June 1st, thousands of white citizens poured into the Greenwood district, looting and burning homes and businesses over an area of 35 blocks. Firefighters who arrived to help put out fires later testified that rioters had threatened them with guns and forced them to leave. According to the Red Cross, estimated 1,256 houses were burned, 215 others were looted but not torched. Two newspapers, a school, a library, a hospital, churches, hotels, stores, and many other owned black businesses were among the buildings destroyed by or damaged by the fire. By the time the National Guard arrived and declared martial law shortly before noon, the riot had effectively ended. Through guardsmen helped put out some fires. They also imprisoned many black toasters, and by June 2nd, some 6,000 people were under armed guard at local fairgrounds. Many of those people who lost their house and lost their businesses and lost their their money because those guys came in and took everything that those people in Tulsa had. And at the end of the day, man, many people think that it was more motivated because of what the people in Greenwood were attempting to do. They were attempting to manage some, I think, some Saudi or somebody over in the Middle East money, their oil money at that point in time. And if they were able to broker that deal at that point in time after World War I, it was a depression, you know what I'm saying, coming along. And if they were able to broker that deal, it was said that it was going to affect the uh, the balance of of money in the United States because of how much money that they would be managing and how much influence that they would have. And with that being said, that's what comes in about the conspiracy theories about the government having something to do with that. Because when you look at Tulsa, look at Greenwood, look at that area, it's reports that that city was also burned and bombed. Like it were planes flying, like dropping shit down and bombing Greenwood. The Gap band uh did did a song. You dropped a bomb on me, and that song is representing what took place in Greenwood. So if you ever get a chance to listen to the Gap band, you dropped the bomb on me. That is what they are referring to. I know, man, it's deep, man. You boys know a lot of history, and in my opinion, like that was going on a lot, man, a lot in the South, man. Not only in Greenwood, but this is one that we have documented. But it just seems like even though black people didn't have equal rights and things like that, even when we got our own separate and thriving communities, there was still envious and still resentment coming from others that didn't have it. And it's just not right, man. It's just not right. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna give you some more circumstances to shed a light on how black people are feeling in this day and time and why we are feeling that way in America. In America. Let's let's talk about let's talk about, man, the difference. Nah, you know what? Let's wait on that. We're gonna talk about something else that happened that's disturbing. Emmett Till. I know y'all pretty much know the story about Emmett Till, right? I know For those who don't know, will be a shocker. You know what I'm saying? But Emmett Till, a 14-year-old boy, man, 14-year-old boy, was taken out of his relative's house, 1955. Was taken out of his relative's house because a white woman said that he was flirting with her. 14 years old. 14 years old. Grew up in the south side of Chicago, going down south to village to visit family, and never made it back to Chicago at all. It's tough because when you I see you, Jack. Give me 1 second. Let me finish this Emmett Till bit. It's tough because 14 years old, right? You got your whole life to live out and live in front of you, right? And what gives anybody the right to come and take somebody out of their home? And if you know what happened to Emmett Till, man, they gouged his fucking eyes out. They shot him in the head. And before they did all that, they damn near beat him to death and threw his body tied to cotton threw his body tied to a cotton gin fan with barbed wire into the river. When you look at stories like this, when you realize things like this, and this is not the only time. Like these are things that are documented. There are so many other things that haven't been documented that shapes the way Black people feel today in America. We've seen a lot of injustices, man. Our older ancestors have seen a lot of injustices, and it's just it's just tough, man, to know that what's happening in 1955, 1921. It's pretty much the same thing that's happening now today. People are being killed publicly, being shot publicly. Black men, unarmed black men are being shot by the police. Real quick, I'm gonna give you all the things you need, all the visual aids that you need. Oscar Grant shot by the police. California subway system, handcuffed, face down. The cop said he thought that he drew his taser gun. Austin Sterling selling CDs down in Louisiana. Didn't have a gun. Didn't have anything. Shot and killed by the police. Tamir Rice at a playground playing with a toy gun. Police thought it was a real gun. Shot and killed I don't even know how old Tamir Rice is, but you see him, he's just a fucking kid. Eric Gardner selling Lucy's in New York, just out here trying to make a little bit more money. Selling Lucy's in New York, killed by the police. Michael Brown, killed by the police, shot numerous of times. George Stanley Jr., executed at the age of 14 years old because they said that he murdered a 7-year-old white girl and an 11-year-old white girl when that was not the case. The shit got overturned in 2014, 7 years later. But this little boy right here was executed. I want you guys to look at him. This could be your son, your brother, your nephew, anybody. 14 years old, executed. Let me get out my soapbox, man. What's going on, Jack?
Yeah, fuck me, Mike. That shit's making me emotional. Honestly, looking at that reel that you just put, the highlight reel of all the people that died because of the color of their skin. There's no justification. I didn't really come on for a debate. I came on for an education, to be honest, because when we hear about these type of things happening on this side of the pond, it's hard to reconcile. It's hard for us to understand it, even as black people over here, because there's racism over here. It's clear. There's racism everywhere, but people aren't losing their lives as frequently as it is in America. Um, the Teman Rice. This is the first time I heard of it, of a guy playing with a toy gun in a playground. That shit, honestly, I almost dropped off after that point because I got kids. My kids play with water pistols. They play with toy guns. They play with all that. I used to play with that shit when I was younger. Heaven forbid that a Fed walks up to the playground where one of my children are and feels they can unload on the child because they feel it's a real gun because of the color of their skin. I was having a conversation with one of my friends. We're looking at the video that's gone viral where everybody sees now, and they can see the police kneeling on this guy's neck, like kneeling on his neck. And all people can do is flip out their video phones and go, "You're killing him, bro. You're a bum. You're killing him."
Hey,
If
Jack,
that was...
I was honestly thinking, bro, that's a moment in time that I would have gladly went to jail. I would have tried to tackle him, steal on him or something, bro. Like
I said that same thing. That if that was over in England, we're pushing the feds. We're like, "Get off him! You can see blood." We hear that because of where you are. The reason why we can't do that is because there are 4 other police officers that if they see you coming up to them aggressively, they're going to shoot you. Nobody wants to die. So I understand that nobody's jumping on it. And that's the distinction. That's where the disconnect comes between UK black folks and American black folks, because we're not allowed to carry guns. I'm not diminishing the what's it called. We're not allowed to carry guns. So we
You breaking up, Jack. You breaking up. Try to reconnect, man, real quick. I just want to give you guys the difference of how police interact with other races. You know what I'm saying? For lack of a better word. Dylan Roof shut up a church in South Carolina. Did they come at him with hostile force? Did they put their fucking knee on his neck? Nah. They took him to fucking Burger King. They took him to fucking Burger King before he went to jail. If that ain't a fucking pat on the back, I don't know what is. These 2 motherfuckers right here. These 2 motherfuckers right here was out of jail for 2 months after killing a black guy for jogging. Out of jail for 2 months when the police had the video. They got the video. They seen the video. But why were they out of jail for 2 months? Why ain't no knees on their neck? Why they ain't handcuffed on the ground? George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin. Say what you want to, man. Cut that young boy in cold blood. You a grown ass man. The fuck you out here doing fucking with a teenager anyway? Did they put their knee on his neck? They put him on the ground? No, bro. They only do one race like that, man. They only do one race like that. But yeah, Jack, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, no, I hear you, bro. I lost you for a second, and I agree with you. There's no justification. It's prejudice, it's racism, and there is no justification for that Fed putting his neck on a human being. They wouldn't treat a white person like that. I accept. My question is, how come nobody intervened? Yeah, nobody intervened because they don't want to lose their lives. You're saying you would have gladly gone to jail. What if he walked up and they shot you?
It's easy to say that because it's on the outside, like white people, but feeling how I feel, Jack, man, like just knowing what I know and knowing the history of the injustices that have been going on in America, man, like, bruh, if the man is literally saying he can't breathe, your knee is on his neck with full, like you got his knee on his neck with full force. It's not like you're taking something off. You are leaning forward, like you are pressing down on that man's neck. At the end of the day, man, like shit. Hopefully,
I'm saying it because I've seen it in real life, right? I've seen it in when I was growing up, one of my friends, the police were looking for him. About 5 or 6 of them jumped him, and he was on the floor, and they were all on top of him. He's saying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." We rugby tackled them. We jumped in. We were like, "Get off, get off!" All they had were taser guns, pepper spray, and a stick. They can't. Worst case scenario, we're gonna get a beating, but we're not gonna run the risk of getting shot. They had to bring wagons of police cars to come round. I'm saying if that's America, everyone's gonna think twice because immediately you make a move towards the feds, they're gonna go for their guns. I was in New York asking a policeman for direction. I walked up to him to ask him for direction, and I startled him. Immediately, he put his hand on his pistol, and I stepped back like, what is this? He heard my accent, and he calmed down. I'm saying I don't know whether he was racist. I don't know whether he was startled, but he had the option to go for a gun. You haven't got those options to go for a gun over here because I'm look. It might seem like I'm not changing the subject or I remember there was a Black Lives Matter protest and everyone went up there. The black people went up there with their guns. Like we have a right to bear arms. We shouldn't be persecuted because we also have the right to carry guns. When you were given an explanation of the back in history of 1921, you were talking about a guy that was falsely accused of rape in a lift, and they wanted to lynch him. White people turned up at the courtyard. They wanted to do something. So some black people came there with their guns to defend. The white people thought they've got guns. Let's go in and break into an armory and come and what's it called? It just continues to escalate. So racism is one thing. It's the main thing. But when are we gonna start talking about racism without people losing their lives? Why does it have to be this person has gone out? Will he come home again? If I'm a victim of racism in this country, worst case scenario, my parents will come and pick me up in the police station, or my wife will come and pick me up at the police station. Worst case scenario in America, they're going to identify the body in the mortuary. Bruv, I mean, at one point, push has to come to shove, and we have to think what is more important: the value of a human life, or your right to bear arms.
And that's the whole thing coming from Black Lives Matter. Like it's not saying that other lives don't matter. They're simply saying, and they just left it off, that Black Lives Matter too. You know what I'm saying? Like black people matter just as much as any other person on this earth. And I feel you, Jack. Like in America, like one thing that people always have to have, like I'm an uncle. I had to talk with my nephew. Like, man, if you ever get pulled over by the police, be on your P's and Q's. Don't say, make sure your hands are on the steering wheel and visible. You know what I'm saying? So visible to the cop. And if you actually where your license and stuff is, tell them where it's at and tell them that you're reaching for it and you're about to get it. Those are things that sadly that has to be done in the black community, man. And
it's sad.
It's sad. I'll tell you a story, man. When I was like my first encounter with a police officer, I maybe like 12, 13 years old. And me and my friend was just out on the basketball court in the middle of our neighborhood playing basketball. You know what I'm saying? It was like 3 or 4 streets going this way, going that way, and going that way. And I guess, man, my friend must have had something, you know what I'm saying? He had to rearrange his junk right quick or something. And as he was doing it, a cop was driving by. Cop gonna stop and get out of his car. And my friend wasn't even facing him. Gonna say, oh, you gonna grab your fucking nuts on me like that? We 13 years old looking like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? No, I see you grab your fucking nuts when I drove by. And that right there, I'm like, bro, we wasn't even thinking about you. We trying to get this game finished, you know what I'm saying? So that right there just showed me like sometimes what goes through the mindset of a police. Even though we wasn't thinking about him, he was thinking about us to the point where he had to jump out of his car and say something to us for no apparent reason other than saying my friend grabbed his nuts on him. Like, bro, that is ridiculous. And it's just it's a sad thing that minorities have to go through. Like not only black people, Mexican people, like minorities in America are not looked at in the same light as a Caucasian person is in America, and it's sad. Like it's very evident by how we get treated with the police. One of the biggest stats out there is everybody pretty much smokes weed at the same rate, right? Like white people smoke weed, black people smoke weed, but black people have been uh, um, arrested more times by a long shot than white people have for smoking weed. So it's just unequal patrolling by the cops and um unequal government, man, like unequal justice system, for lack of a better word.
What's the best way to advocate for change then, Mike?
Man,
Because you can't. People are angry,
I
right?
know
So
people advocating for fucking change, bro.
why do we want to change something that is not or has never been made for us? The biggest thing people can do is not spend money. When you don't spend money in America, they hear you. Don't spend money, man, and really try to emulate what the people had in 1921 with Black Wall Street. They had a chance to change everything. Pretty much probably change U.S. history if they would have got that deal over in the Middle East. I know that shit wasn't documented, but I watched many documentaries about um, the Tulsa massacre, and one of in a lot of those documentaries that I watched, if they would have secured that deal with the Middle Eastern country, they would have changed the economic impact that it had on America, straight up. And the government didn't necessarily like that, and that's why I feel like it was more of an inside job than what they put on. Like a guy getting in an elevator and he's sexually assaulting somebody. Like, come on, bro. Like how the elevator, like going to the first, a second, especially back then. I can't imagine the Demi buildings were very big in Tulsa. So you going to like what 10 seconds, 11 seconds? I don't understand it, man.
yeah, it's not. I hear that. I hear about creating your own economy. They're talking about that a lot in Africa now. That now that everything's shut down, people aren't going to be able to trade with the outside world, and let's start producing our own goods. In Africa, 80% of the economy is from exportation. So they're thinking, how can we start our own into Africa trade, etc., and create our own economy? And it's great. The concept is great. The concept of let's do this for ourselves so that we can. Nobody has to put us on. We don't have any manufacturing. We mine diamonds, but we send it out to the outside world only to buy it back because they have refinement. We produce gold ore, but we have to send it out and then buy gold from other people once they've refined them, etc., etc. So we need to create our own. This situation has caused us to think about things differently. But the reality is, people right now in Minnesota, in all of America, they're out there reacting to the anger. So something like you're suggesting, like create our own economy and try and replicate what's in. It involves people thinking analytically. It involves them thinking about without anger. People are out there looting. The reason why I noticed this because we're in a chat and I said looting is counterproductive, and you said no, it's something that people should do. I understand that they're angry, but while they're angry, who's in a position to think about change? What can we do differently? Because it's the same story. 5 years will pop up. Be having the same debate that people are dying because of racism. Racism isn't going to stop tomorrow, but we can stop people losing their lives
If you don't
as a
have
result of it. Go ahead.
if you don't have the means or the political power or political infrastructure to implement change, then talking about change is not really going to help anything, man. I understand the conversations, but we gotta we gotta look at it from a systemic racism point of view, bro. Like until America atones for its original sins, which is slavery, there is no way that the black man can survive in America, man, because we don't have the money. We don't have the backing. Like most of black people in America live under the fucking poverty line.
Yeah.
How can somebody make change if they don't have the necessary money or economic impact to make change? And when you talk about these opportunity zones, the people that are coming in really benefiting off of these opportunity zones are white people who got money or black people who got a little money. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's nothing we can do until America, in my opinion, atones for its original sin, man.
I think that's where the conversation begins, and I agree with you 100%. They need to atone. How do they atone? And how does that transfer across to the rest of the world?
Yeah, man. You can put a tax on Wall Street. Every trade that gets done on Wall Street has to be taxed. You can tax them 2, 3, 4 cents. You know what I'm saying, per transaction. That's a way that could help the black community. You could start giving out land. Like, do something to let black people know that you have their best interest at heart. That's why I'm looking at the presidential race like right now. Like, what does Joe Biden really gonna do for black people? What is Trump really gonna do for black people? Like, we don't have anybody in a position to really make a big enough change to where everybody can feel it, not just the black people who already have. I'm talking about everybody can feel it. And until that gets done, we're gonna be sitting here talking about this shit every year. And that's why the Black Panthers were so important, because that shit that was going on in Minnesota wouldn't have went on if the Black Panthers were present. You know what I'm saying? They were policing the police. But J. Edgar Hoover felt the Black Panthers were a terrorist group or whatever, and had them dismantled.
No, it's. I appreciate it, man. It's been an education. I didn't think that there was a disconnect. But speaking to you, I sort of get it, and I understand where. Sometimes when I speak to people and they're like, "Well, I've got this chip on my shoulder. I've got this chip on my shoulder." I can't understand it. But I think that these conversations that we have, understanding the disproportionate opportunities with black people and white people in America, and that's exacerbated by people losing their lives. That's where we fall down, because we recognize there's disproportionate opportunities over here. We try to believe in a meritocracy, even though we know it's a fallacy. But if you live your life constantly thinking it's stacked against me, that's what I try to teach my children. It's not stacked against you. Don't believe that. You get out what you put in. But it's hard to say that to a child where they can go out and get shot in just because of the color of their skin. Thank God they're not currently under that kind of what's it called. But I'm beginning to understand it more. The more I talk to people like you, the more I get into it without it being a slanging match or whatever. And sometimes when we say things, we're not saying it out of ignorance. We're saying it because we're trying to learn. So I appreciate you doing shows like this and explaining your point of view, and maybe putting it out there so that maybe we can start to affect change collectively, instead of going at each other and saying, well, just put your guns away and then that will be the solution.
I don't do this very often, you know what I'm saying? I just felt today I just woke up and I felt moved, you know what I'm saying? I just felt moved that I really had to talk about something or address something. I didn't even know where I was going midway through me researching, you know what I'm saying, like the topics and things like that. But I just felt the way, man, and something just gonna have to be done, man. It's gonna have to be done sooner or later, man. I don't know what that something is. I don't know how, and I really don't know a plan of action. I just know sooner or later, man, it's gonna be really, really bad for America, man. People are going to look at America as like, damn, what happened over there? Like, where is bound. I don't want to say it's bound to happen, but if things don't get better, if black men keep dying at by the people who are supposed to protect us at a rate like this. Each and every year is 4 or 5 cases nationally that we know about. And I'm pretty sure that there's more that we don't. And with that being said, man, I just want to just give a quick shout out to George Floyd, Oscar Grant, Alden Sterling, Tamir Rice, Eric Gardner, Michael Brown, and George Stanley Jr., man, who was executed by the South Carolina government, what state, whatever you want to say, at the age of 14 years old. The age of 14 years old, executed. Let that sink in, man. You got anything else you want to say, Jack? If not,
No, bro, I think that's a perfect way to end it, man.
peace out, man. Let's go. Yes, sir.